Hey, I've had a question about lesson 4, and this is part 2, where they want you to add two vectors geometrically. So the challenge with this is constructing the proper triangle. So I'm going to just overwrite this one. I'm going to call this one vector u, this one vector v. And what I'm going to do is, with the smartboard, I can draw over top. So I have this vector here, and then I have vector v. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two vectors together, which means I have to do head to tail placement. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do at all. So trying this again, what I want to do, I'm going to move this vector so you can see or visualize what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take this vector, slide it over here. So that's my vector u. Then I'm going to put head to tail addition. So that means that the tail of this vector is going to go at the head right there. So I've transferred it to head to tail addition for vectors u and v. I know that the angle with the horizontal is 20 degrees. So that means the angle over here is 20 degrees, which would also tell me then, from my Z pattern from your grade 9 math, that it's 20 degrees down here. I know that the angle for my v vector is 80 degrees down here. So I've transferred a whole bunch of information, and what I want to find is the resultant. And the resultant is from where I started to where I finished. So what that means is I'm trying to solve for my resultant inside this triangle. So the tricky part is always finding an internal angle, because I know that u is 10 centimeters long. I know v is 6. I need this angle here. And I can calculate that angle by saying 180 degrees minus 20 on one side minus 80 on the other is going to give me 80 degrees. So I know that that angle inside here between them is 80 degrees. Now, once you have that, that's the entire battle right there. Now you can go ahead and you can do your cosine law and sine law to find the angle. So if I want to find the magnitude of my resultant, we know our formula is the a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos c. So I know that it's 10 squared plus 6 squared, so that's for my triangle above, minus 2 times 10 times 6 cos, and that's the internal angle, the one that's in between our two vectors. That's the one we want, which is the 80 degrees. And now we can go ahead and calculate that value. So once I've put that through a calculator, I get a magnitude of 10.7 centimeters. So I know the magnitude of that resultant there, this is getting awfully messy, I apologize. Magnitude of the resultant is 10.7 centimeters. Now we need a direction. So what I'm going to do, and this is why the picture is pretty important, and I'm going to redraw this because it's getting to the point where it's a little too messy for me to point and explain to. So my vector looked like this. There's my resultant. That was u. That's v. So I know that this angle here was given. All right, if I slide up, so I know that it was 20 degrees. So if I can find that internal angle, this one here, I can figure out a direction from the horizontal. So that means I need to find the angle up here. And the nice thing with this, it's always the same process. Cosine law, then the sine law. So the sine law, I'm looking for an angle. So sine A over A equals sine B over B, or whichever. It doesn't matter to me, your letter convention here. So we're going to look, I'm going to look for angle A up in that top corner. I know that side A is the magnitude of my V vector, which was 6. Sine of angle B. Well, I know what my resultant is, and I knew what that angle was. So not sure why I wrote sine B. It's going to be sine of 80 degrees. So we found that up in the cosine law right here. So it's given information over what I just found, 10.7. So now I'm going to solve for angle A, and I might be adding extra steps in here, but I just want to make sure everyone can follow what I am doing. Set that up. So angle A equals the sine inverse of that mess right there. All right, so 6 sine 80 divided by 10.7 equals second sine of my answer, 33.5 degrees. All right, so when we look back at our picture, I found that my picture is actually incorrect. So the angle between these two vectors is 33.5. So, sorry, one more time. So I know that this angle here with the u vector was 20 degrees, and my resultant inside that triangle was actually a total of 33.5 degrees. So my resultant actually should have been pointing upwards. So you got to be careful with your diagram, because sometimes the diagram doesn't match what actually happened. So my picture should actually look more like this than how I drew it. So therefore, the resultant is 10.7 centimeters. And if this is the horizontal, I know that that distance was 20, that distance is 33.5, so that means that distance is 13.5, so that means I would have been heading to the right or east, 13.5 degrees north. Okay, so very careful. It's like I said, drawing the picture is always the trickiest part, and if you don't draw it proportionally, then you got to be careful when you interpret your answer. And what you're going to find, and really the whole goal of this, I'm going to ask one question like this on the test, but what you're going to find is algebraic method is much more efficient, or a lot less messing around with pictures. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question and gets you going. And if you have any more questions, let me know.